You've heard that GoHighLevel is one of the most powerful tools for running your agency or business because it has everything you need and then some. But because it can do so much, I know from my own experience that when you're just getting started, it can feel pretty overwhelming. But the biggest mistake most people learn is they try to learn every feature in HighLevel at once instead of focusing on the few essential features that will allow you to get started quickly and make your first sale fast. Also, the way GoHighLevel is set up is different from most other tools. So if you don't understand how all of these tools work together and fit into the bigger picture, you'll end up spinning your wheels feeling lost. That's why in this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how GoHighLevel works, what each feature does, and which features to focus on as a beginner to make your first sale fast. Let's dive in. First, what exactly is GoHighLevel? Well, it's an all-in-one tool that gives you everything you need to run and grow your agency or business. So it has a CRM, funnels, a website builder, surveys and forms, email, SMS. You can see appointments, workflows and automations. You can run courses and even membership sites. You have call tracking and you can even make calls, reputation management. So if you have like a Google My Business profile, you can manage that in there. You got all kinds of tracking and analytics and communities, and you can even do document signing. So when you're sending your contracts, and it has an amazing mobile app that connects everything. You can see here that all of this software together would cost like $1,600, and GoHighLevel starts at just $97 a month. And so if you're a business owner, you get all of these tools you see here, and you can run your business or even multiple businesses for just one price. And what's awesome is not only do you get to replace all of these tools here, but everything is already integrated together. So they already share data between each of these tools. So you can make some really advanced automations and workflows as well when you get more into the tool. Now, if you're an agency owner, GoHighLevel is the best solution hands down, because not only can you use it to run your own agency and get and manage your clients, but you can actually make sub accounts for your clients and manage all of them easily within HighLevel. And when you add these sub accounts, it also opens up all kinds of other monetization options I'll cover in the video. And probably what's the best part is for $97, you can get 3 sub accounts. So as an agency, you can do your own company account and manage 2 other clients. Or for just $297, you get unlimited sub accounts. So you can have as many clients as you want and give them a fully featured HighLevel software, and you get to either charge them for that platform or use it in your retainer, or you can even do some upselling. So this is an amazing price, and that's why this has been the gold standard for agencies. Now, the third way to use HighLevel is to white label it. And basically what that means is you are making HighLevel into your own SaaS solution. It'll have your branding and everything. It won't say HighLevel anywhere. And then at that point, you're basically running a software as a service company, and then you get to charge whatever you want for the software. And now the only thing is you do need the $497 plan to do this, but that is another option. But regardless which of these 3 use cases you're interested in, you're covered with this tutorial, since I'll be going over the fundamentals, which are the same for all of them. If you haven't signed up for HighLevel already, click the link below and you'll be taken to my personal page. And because I'm partnering with HighLevel for this video, you're gonna get an extended 30-day trial instead of the regular 14-day trial. And while I'm gonna make this tutorial easy to follow for you, HighLevel is a big tool, and giving yourself those extra 2 weeks will really let you play around with it, explore all of the features, and even make a sale or 2 before having to make a decision if it's the right tool for your agency or business. And when you sign up for my page, I'm going to personally send you a bunch of bonuses that'll help you get started with HighLevel even faster, and those will be automatically emailed to you. And when you sign up, you're going to get a one-on-one onboarding call with HighLevel. They're going to be able to get you set up quickly and answer any questions you have and help you migrate over from any of the other tools you might be using, for example. So once you sign up, it's going to ask you a number of questions to set up your profile, and then you are going to be dropped into your HighLevel dashboard that looks like this. Now, I remember when I first landed in here, I was so confused. I'm like, wait, where are my emails or landing pages, or how do I upload contacts or do anything? Don't worry, I'm gonna explain it to you and it's gonna make a lot of sense. So this is called your agency dashboard. And if you are a business owner and you're not running an agency, don't worry about the name. This is basically just your master account. And within HighLevel, the way it works is there's an agency or master level account, and then there are these sub accounts underneath it. And these sub accounts are how you are going to be able to do all of the day-to-day marketing and sales activities like calendar, conversations, contacts, marketing, sales, all of that stuff. And I'll get into that later when we cover that section. So hopping back to the agency view here. So this is your agency level dashboard, and this connects just strictly to Stripe, and it'll show you all of your sales from Stripe specifically. So if you're using other billing systems like PayPal, I use a few different ones, it won't show all of it, but this is just an aggregate view anyways. So that's what that is. And now I'm gonna go through each of these items, but don't worry. The good news is 95% of this is not relevant to you as a beginner. I'll explain it really quickly so you have a sense of what it's for, but we're gonna skip most of this, or you can ignore most of this. So starting from the top, this SaaS configurator, this is if you pay for the SaaS mode, and like I told you, if you want to run your own SaaS company, you can actually set whatever pricing you want and create your own plans and which features go into each plan and whatnot. Now, on a similar note, Reselling does something really similar, and you don't need the $497 plan for this, but basically there are a bunch of modules in HighLevel that you can resell. So let's say you're an agency and you want your sub accounts you create, you want them, or they want to say use WhatsApp, then you can charge them a price for that that's on top of what you pay. So it's just a reselling feature. Again, you don't need to start here, but I'm just explaining what it is so that you know. Then going over to prospecting. Now, prospecting basically is a tool that's going to help you find customers if you're running an agency. And so you can see here, you can go to add a prospect and you could say like lawyers, and it could find a whole bunch of law firms in your area. You can really type anything you want. And then, you can go in here and you can generate this prospect. And then what it's going to do is it's going to make a report, a marketing report, and we won't wait for that. I'll just show you one that's already made as an example. And so you go in here and you can see it just kind of does like a marketing report. And this can be kind of cool if you're like selling marketing services and you want to pitch them and, oh, your traffic is not good, your site speed, whatever it is. So again, this is a tool that's going to be relevant to some people and not to others, because you might be getting leads from other places like Facebook ads, or maybe you're doing cold calling or whatever it is, your network. So again, this may or may not be relevant to you. And again, this is the point I want to focus on here. HighLevel has a lot of tools, but not every tool is for everyone. So keep that in mind. Sub accounts and snapshots I'm going to cover last. We've already covered reselling. Add-ons. Again, there's a bunch of advanced stuff in here. You don't need any of it. This is extra stuff you can add to HighLevel if you want. You don't need any of this. Affiliate portal basically is if you're a HighLevel affiliate, then you can look at your earnings as a HighLevel affiliate and get some training and stuff. Now, template library lets you create templates or assign templates to different sub accounts. So this is actually interesting because if you are an agency and you've developed your own templates and you want to use those templates across multiple accounts, then you can do that. You can go to create template and you can make one. And we're actually going to cover that more in the sub account. But on the agency level, what's letting you do is have templates that you can then deploy into multiple sub accounts, which could be different customers of yours. So for example, let's say you service lawyers. Well, you might create some special templates for lawyers, and then you could deploy that same template into all of your lawyer accounts as you add them. Partners lets you hire high-level partners. University and SaaS education basically have some courses. This is for if you want to learn how to do some white labeling stuff. This is to help you with HighLevel a little bit. Not so important. GHL Swag lets you buy swag. Ideas lets you submit feedback into the app if you find bugs or if you want to request features. And the mobile app here lets you customize your brand. And if you want it to be a generic brand, kind of gray label, or HighLevel branded, or your own custom brand, and this really depends on your plan. The app marketplace lets you add all kinds of different apps and integrations. And again, as a beginner, this is not relevant to you. The day will come when it is relevant, when you want to integrate something in, but that's not today. But the good news is HighLevel has hundreds and hundreds of apps that are integratable. And so you can do some really cool stuff with the workflows and everything. But again, good for you to know that it exists, but not something you need right now. Next, we're going to go to settings and set up a few things. So here you can set up your own personal profile. Here you can set up your company information, and you can do the white labeling thing I talked about if it's relevant and applicable to you. Here you can set up all your agency team members. So if you have multiple people helping you with your agency, billing just lets you see what plan you're on, and you can go to payments to change your credit card information and see all the transactions. And now wallet and transactions is really important, and I'll explain this. Basically, the way HighLevel works is as an agency or the master account, if you're not running an agency, it's where you'll handle all of your billing. So any of the features and usages that your sub accounts use, because some features do have charges for them. So for example, texting, some of the AI features and so on and so forth, you can see some of them have charges. And at first you're kind of like, wait, what? I'm paying for HighLevel and I got to pay for all this other stuff. Here's the thing. A lot of the platforms mark up their tiers and just bake it into the pricing. So you might get so many emails or so many texts and so on and so forth. With HighLevel, you literally pay for every single item, and that gives you the ultimate flexibility because you're not buying like 1,000 texts at once and you only send 50 this month and you still paid for 1,000, right? So it's like pay as you go, which in the long run is way better. So basically the way it works is you load an amount, and then all of the features that people use or all the consumables or variable costs, as you can see here with some of the features, and you can see what they are. And not everything has a charge, and you can actually disable some of this if you don't want some of your sub accounts using some of this stuff. But anyways, all of that would be billed to you, and then you also have an option of billing them back yourself if that's what you want to do to recoup these funds. But that's how it works. And so it's really important for you to keep a running balance and to set auto recharge here so that your sub accounts aren't able to get, because if you don't do that, your sub accounts won't be able to use some of these features, and that's not good. Next, we're over at phone integration. And so this is probably my favorite feature because this app that you get has notifications, chats, you can do transactions like credit cards, you can manage your calendar, you can make phone calls, you can see all your contacts. I don't know if you can see that, but basically there are all of the things that you could do in your HighLevel account, and it just gets centralized into your app. You can even take live chats and respond on the spot, and everything is centralized. It's amazing. And what's even cooler is you can switch between all of your sub accounts easily. And so that is a feature you definitely want to enable. And so you can set that up at the agency level here, and you can enable it for each of your sub accounts so that they can use it as well. But here you can actually switch into their accounts, but they won't be able to switch into the other sub accounts, if that makes sense. Now, the rest of this is very situational. There's some things where you can enable and disable certain permissions and what some of the sub accounts can do. So I'm going to skip over a lot of this. Again, it's not that important, but what you definitely want to do is go over to Stripe and connect your Stripe profile. And that will take a few seconds. Just log in with Stripe. And I'm assuming you know what Stripe is, but if you don't, Stripe is a billing platform so that you can actually get paid and do financial transactions. Now that I quickly covered all of the agency level stuff, the next thing you want to do is create your own sub account. So the process will be the same whether you're making a sub account for your agency or business, or if you're making it for one of your customers. So just go to sub accounts and hit create sub account, and you are instantly shown a number of snapshots. And what these snapshots are sort of templates and configurations that can make starting your HighLevel profile or creating your sub account a lot easier. So for example, there is a financial, a travel and hospitality, business and coaching. Basically for every single niche, they have a snapshot. And so say for example, we were running a restaurant or a bar, and if we go to setup guide here, it's going to show you exactly what you're going to get in this snapshot and walk you through step by step what to configure. So you can read this entire tutorial and just go through step by step. It also has a section called quick wins, which is really cool. Now you could also not choose a snapshot if you wanted to. You can go blank, but let's do this. You can just go to select and continue. And why I recommend this is because even if you don't use all this stuff they're going to create for you, at least each section won't be blank, and you'll have a reference point for how this feature is supposed to work. Now you can actually find the company right here. So say donut, and let's just say I pick a company. Let's just say it's this cafe here, or you can create it manually. You can say example one person, example owner, and so of course put the actual person's name and information in there. And so this is the sub account. If it's your own business, obviously add your information. So time zone, I'm in the Eastern time zone. And then you click add subaccount. You don't have to save any of this. And now it has been created, and you can go here and you can see that. You can see this Marathon Cafe thing we created. Now here we are dropped into our dashboard, and this is actually your dashboard that will be tied to your pipeline. And so I'll show you as an example, this is what that would look like. And so we're going to get to what these pipelines are and how you're going to get all these reports, but that's exactly what that is right there. And it's a really good bird's eye view of that. And I'm going to go through each of these items one by one. But before I do that, we always want to start with settings. Okay, so within the settings menu, you'll see a lot of the same options as the agency level, which is good because then you kind of are familiar with what everything is. So here in business profile, you can actually configure your business profile and set up all of your information here. Then under my profile, you can actually set up your own user profile. You don't need billing right now. Then hopping over to my staff, you can actually add more users within this business. And opportunities and pipelines we're going to come to when we get to that feature. Same with automation calendars, all of this, we're going to get to that feature. But email services is really important. And so basically you want to have a dedicated domain to send your emails from. And it sounds more complicated than it is. Don't worry, it's really simple. And so basically what that means is instead of using a shared domain that GoHighLevel assigns to everyone, this email is going to come out from your own domain so that people recognize it and you get past a lot of the spam filters. And some providers actually require that you do this stuff. So it's really easy. All you have to do is go dedicated domain and IP and then hit add domain. And then you just choose your domain and then you verify. There's a whole wizard. It just walks you through it. Honestly, it takes like a minute if you're using a common provider like GoDaddy or something, or really any other popular provider, and it takes a few seconds and then it'll be authenticated. So make sure you do that. And the other thing it's going to do is, and I'm going to get to the conversations, is when people respond to your emails, they're going to actually show up in your unified inbox. And I'm going to show you what that unified inbox is, but you definitely want it. So make sure you do this feature. And of course, if you don't have a custom domain yet, you can go buy one from a zillion different sites. Like I said, GoDaddy, Squarespace, whatever you're using, there's like 100 different providers that you can get one from. Now, phone numbers is what you're going to use to be able to make phone calls, receive phone calls, and send and receive text messages. So just go to add number, add phone number, and you can choose your country and you can choose. And so you can see right here, there's a bunch of numbers that you can get and you can just proceed to buy them. So say I want this number from San Diego, I just go proceed to buy. Cost me $1.15 to rent that number. And there you go. I have a new number that I have just added. It's really that easy. And if you want, you can just hit phone and start making phone calls. It's really cool. And there's a lot more we can do with the phone number, and we'll get to that. Now, if you want to send text messages, and if you are in the US or Canada, you have to do this A2P submission. And basically, it's a law thing. You have to submit this because there's been all kinds of spammers who's been abusing texts since they came out. And so now you have to register since 2023. The good news is HighLevel has express registration and it'll take 3 days to do it. But basically you start your application, you answer a bunch of questions, and then they review it, and then you will be approved, and then you can start sending text messages. And you can also change your default number if you have multiple phone numbers you want, but this is my default. And now WhatsApp is also a function of HighLevel, but this is if you really want it. And I would say it's not really applicable for every kind of business. You kind of know if you need this or not, but you can do it, and there is an additional fee for it. So here's where you would set that up. Now, a lot of this is kind of situational, so I won't touch on any of this, but domains is important. Of course, you want to connect your own domain so you can use your domain in your funnels and your websites and so on. And I'll get to that when we get to that section. And again, you can do some of the integrations here if you have other services you want to integrate, but a lot of the integrations we'll need, like your calendar, like Google Calendar, we're going to cover when we get to those specific features. And then there are some other things in here that you might want to look at. This one, I didn't want to mention it, but I will really quickly. Basically, you can set custom values if you'd like. So if you always use something and that you want to call that, so say for example, you want a specific phone number or something, you can create a custom value. If you don't know what I'm talking about here, don't worry about it. It's something you can use in your automations and whatnot, but I know some people want to know how to configure this, so I just mentioned it. If you know what I'm talking about, you get it. is where you can assign tags. And so tags are really important when it comes to automations and emails and things, and we'll get into that, but this is exactly where you go to create tags. So you can assign tags when people do certain actions basically, and then the system can do things based on if someone has or doesn't have that tag basically. And so this is where you would attach those tags. And then brand boards, of course, is where you will be able to create your own brand. And so if you go to new, you can kind of choose a pre-done template, or you can actually just set it up in here. You can upload your logo and change around your colors. It's really self-explanatory, but that's how you would do it. And so that your brand will be applicable to all your assets. So I recommend you do that. Okay, now hopping back, we can see that there's an item called Launchpad. And the truth is I have a love-hate relationship with this thing, because in some ways it kind of helps you get started a little faster because it tells you some things you can do. But also the way it presents things is it makes it seem like everyone has to do all of these things. And like I said, not all of this is applicable or relevant to you, and you really don't need most of it as a beginner. But I'm going to cover some of the things that are important. So mobile app is to install the mobile app. And if you've never done it before, it basically lets you enter your number and it's going to text you how to install the app, and you log in and then it'll get detected. Then Google My Business Profile is if you run a business that has a Google My Business Profile, then you can attach it so that you can get reviews and you can manage your profile and even make posts. And we'll get to that later. But again, this might not be relevant to you. Next, this is really awesome and I suggest you do it as well. It basically lets you do two things. If you run Facebook ads, again, may not be relevant to you, you can have your lead forms populate in your CRM, or you can actually have those messages that come through from your Facebook business page in your unified inbox. And again, we will cover the unified inbox when we get there. This right here lets you create a chat on your website. So like this, and we're not going to do that now. We'll get to that when we get to that section. Again, WhatsApp, I showed you that already. It might not be relevant to you, but it tells you to do it. Stripe, this is relevant for basically everyone, so make sure you do that if you haven't already. Now, this is actually an add-on that lets you do your listings, and it's an added feature within your Google My Business basically. You might not need that. WordPress is if you have a WordPress site, you want to set one up, you can migrate it. Again, might not be relevant to you. And then lastly, adding team members. If you have multiple team members, it's just a shortcut to add your team members. Next, we're going to get into the unified inbox, the conversations area. I've talked a lot about this, but basically what this does is it's really awesome. It consolidates all your communications into one place. So you got your Instagram messages, you got your Facebook messages, you got your text messages, and your responses to emails. So basically everything will be in here, your call logs, everything, and it's also on your phone in that app I told you about, which is amazing. So you can see everything gets centralized, and all of the information captured in all of those conversations also gets added to your CRM. We're going to cover the CRM, your customer relationship management system, your contact database basically. And so here you can just respond right there to people and hit send, and you'll be able to manage all of this. And you can even have this inbox managed by AI. We're going to get to that when we get to that section, but basically this is where that is. And if you've configured everything and you added your Facebook and Instagram, you can have this happen. And that's all there is to it in this section. Now, this is a tool I recommend everyone uses because you probably have an Instagram and a Facebook and maybe a Google My Business profile, and obviously you have text messages. So this is definitely a tool everyone should use. Next is calendars, and here you can create all kinds of different calendars for your business. So you can create a personal booking calendar, round robin, or class booking, or collective, or a service booking. So say you're a consultant or a coach. And so, for example, I have service booking calendars. And what's awesome is I'll show you one of my calendars. For example, my calendars also have billing built in here. So if you go to one of my calendars, you can actually book a session and you can pay right there, and it syncs with my Google Calendar. So if we go to connections here, you can see you can add your Google Calendar so you can check for conflicts. And so basically you can set up any amount of calendars you want and book your appointments and meetings and sync that with any other calendars you use. So really important if you have that kind of business. Next is contacts, and this is where your CRM is. If you click into any contact, you'll see you get a ton of information about them, what they've done. You can leave yourself tasks. You can create notes, so you can write a note about what the last conversation is, so you can keep track of that. You can have tasks, you can do so much stuff. You can have an appointment, so many things, a real full-featured customer relationship management system. And again, it's also synced on your phone in that app. And if you want to add contacts, you can go to add contacts. You can manually create those contacts, of course, or you can just import contacts from a CSV file. And that's another easy way to do it if you're moving from another system. Now, there's also a company function, and this is really good because you can actually create companies and you can associate contacts with it. So if there are multiple contacts you're dealing with at a company, so if you're in a B2B sale, often there's more than one decision maker. And so the database is able to keep those relationships there. Again, this isn't relevant to everyone, but I'm just telling you in case that's the kind of business you run and you do want to manage multiple contacts and have that relationship between all of those contacts under a company layer as well. If you're coming from HubSpot or Salesforce, you're probably very familiar with this. Next, we'll cover lists. You can create lists, and this is obviously great for sending emails, but you can also create lists based on whatever criteria you want. You can even use them in your workflows and triggers for reasons. And so to create a list, funny enough, it's actually not in the list section. You actually have to go to all, go to more filters, and then once you start filtering, let's say you filter by country is United States, apply, and then you can actually save that filter as a list. So basically what you do is you create the parameters you want, and there's so many parameters you can use for each contact. Obviously, their name, their last name, anything they've done. You could use a tag as a filter for a list, and then you can create those smart lists. So really awesome feature. And those lists also get dynamically updated as more contacts meet that criteria to join that list. Next, let's cover opportunities. And of course, if you're running any kind of business that generates leads, then you obviously have a sales process that you need to manage with multiple stages. So if you go to pipelines, you can set up multiple pipelines and you can choose what all of those stages are. And so you see I have a number of pipelines, and create a new opportunity, just go to add opportunity. Let's say we look for a Jason here. And so we find a person right here, and let's say we want to assign this $500. You hit create, and you can see that right there, and you can just drag them along that pipeline as the opportunity progresses. And again, you can have multiple pipelines, and those opportunities are what's going to populate this view right here and for whatever date range you want. Next, let's cover payments, and I'll go through each of these really quickly. So first, you can create invoices and get them paid since it's all integrated. And so you can just hit new invoice, and it's self-explanatory. You just fill in all the information. If you set up your branding, all of that will get pulled in automatically. And so you can add your products, and you can charge whatever you'd like in your services. And if you need to add a new line item, you can go here. If you haven't set up a product, you can just go create product and add it and create it right here, or service basically. And that's how you bill. It's really self-explanatory. And what you do is you go up here, you choose a customer you want to send it to, and you hit send, and it sends immediately. Super easy invoicing system. You can set up recurring invoices. You can even create your invoice templates that you can use again and again. And you can even manage estimates, which are of course different from invoices if that's relevant to your business. Next, HighLevel replaces your DocuSign or any of the other tools you might use for contracts and whatnot. Basically, you can create a contract, go add an element, and you can make a manual contract like this if you want, and you can preview and send it and set up your signatures right here. So obviously this is not a contract, but you can just drag in the element you want and your text field, so you can actually make the contract in HighLevel if you want. But most people are not going to do that. Most likely you already have the document created in another format, so you would just upload the PDF. Got a sample contract here as an example. Hit upload, and right here you can start your signing process, set signing order. You can add the client, you can add yourself. Then again, you can go in here and drag in the signature, and it really works like any other signing platform you've used. And it's awesome because this is just another little tool HighLevel has that you can now manage right within HighLevel and get rid of that software cost. And then you'll see here, they'll be waiting for others completed. When someone signs it, you'll see that right there. And if you clicked on it, you can see that right there, and you can see, oh, okay, both parties signed it. Great. Next is orders, and this is relevant if you're running an e-commerce store, so it'll populate automatically. automatically. Abandoned checkouts is kind of cool. So if someone just goes to checkout page and it's able to track them, then it'll list them down here. Subscriptions is what it sounds like. You can create a subscription and then you can create that as basically an ongoing product that keeps billing itself. Payment links let you easily sell things if you don't want them to go through, like, say, a full e-commerce experience. You can just create a payment link, pick the product, and then just send them a link to this, and they can pay easily without having any of the invoicing or, you know, a full landing page or anything. It's just a shortcut if it makes sense in your use case. And you see all your transactions over here. Products is where you can configure all your digital products. Collections lets you create a collection of products. Again, the collections and inventory stuff is only relevant to you if you sell physical products. So it might not be relevant to you. If it is, then this section is important to you. And reviews lets you manage the reviews for your products. Coupons let you create these coupon codes. Of course, you're familiar with them, that you can then let people apply to your products when checking out. And integrations lets you integrate many other different kinds of payment gateways. Next, we have AI agents, and this is one of the coolest features. There's two kinds of agents you can create. You can create a voice agent and a conversational agent. Let's start with the voice agent. So when you have your phone number set up, which I showed you earlier, you can go create agent, and it's so easy. You just name your agent and you select the voice you want. There's a whole bunch you can choose from. Next, you choose your language, say English, and then you can play what the person sounds like.
Make absolutely sure there are no smiles available.
And you just hit next and you create your agent. It takes like literally like a minute, and I'll just show you what my agent looks like here. You attach your phone number, and basically what this agent does is it'll take calls for you. So when your phone number rings, if you don't answer the call, it's going to take the call for you, and it's going to really have a conversation like a real person. And their goal in this call is to get the name, the email, the contact's issue, and you can actually send a notification to who you want. And if you go to dashboard and logs, you can actually see a conversation it had, and you can see that right there. It'll actually transcribe the whole conversation. And so it's actually really cool. You kind of have to see it. And you can actually test it right here. Let me give you guys a live demo. And so you see it's calling me, and you have to pretend.
Hey, you have reached Solopreneur Digital. How can I help you today?
Hi, I would like some help with AI automation.
Before we dive into that, could I get your name, please?
Sure, it's Kevin.
Just to make sure I've got it right, your name is Kevin. Is that correct?
Yes. You get the idea. Basically, he's going to have this conversation, and his whole goal here is to get my name and my email and everything so that I can contact him back, and it'll be added to my contact record, which is amazing. So that's what the AI agent does, and there's a lot of cool things you can do with it, but at a high level, that's what it does. So if you do want to take phone calls, this is an amazing feature. So if you're a business that gets a lot of phone calls, this could be a game changer for you, because if you're busy doing a job, say you're a plumber, or say you're doing some sort of renovations and you can't get to the phone, then at least the agent picks up the phone, gets the person's contact information, and then you can call or text them back. Speaking of texting them back, actually, there's one cool feature. It's really hidden that everyone should do if you do run such a business. Go to settings, go to phone numbers, go to advanced settings, and go to voicemail and missed call text back. This right here is so easy to enable, and it's a game changer, because if you miss a call, then this will actually text them back for you. Then they'll of course text you back, and then you can save that lead. So this is a really important feature. It's enabled by default, so just make sure if it's not, go check in here. I think it might matter if you have SMS enabled or not, but once you do all your SMS stuff, you should be able to see it in here. And so that's a really cool feature, and you can even test it out yourself afterward. Next, we have our conversation bot. Just go to create conversation bot, and you can see what kind of bot there is. There's like general question and answer, and then there's an appointment booking bot, and then you can start from scratch. But basically what this bot is, a bot that will work on your text-based channels. So you can see Instagram, Facebook, live chat, you can even add SMS. And so whenever you get a message on one of these platforms, the bot will respond for you intelligently, and you can set up some other things here. And then when you go to bot training, you can just give it your website, and it'll scan your entire website and train itself on your entire website. Of course, you can give it any other data you want. So if you want to create another document or something and give it to it, then that you can use that to train your bot. You can even add custom questions and answers so that you can kind of make sure that it gives some really good answers and specific answers. If there's very specific questions you get that you want to answer more specifically, you can actually then test your bot right here. And then under bot goals, this is where you can set the bot's personality, you can see its intent, you can give it all of these instructions. And so, I would take the time to keep testing your bot, adding more instructions. It does take some work to get it really good where it does make sense. And so you can have it do a few different things. So let's say you test your bot and you say, I want help with my automation. And I've trained my bot to say, hey, can I get your name and your email address to help you with your automation? And so on and so forth, right? And I'm not going to go through it for the sake of time, but basically you can set up your bot here. And then if you actually go over to conversations, it won't show in here because it's a test, but I'll show you live. So if I go here and let's say I start a live chat, you can see here, what's my question? I want to automate my social media. And so it's going to pretend it's getting someone to come help you. and then it's going to respond back and what's your name? It tries to be conversational, right? And look, it shows this right here, right? And we actually don't have the person's name and email address. And when they answer it, then it will scrape that. So you get the idea. Listen, I've covered a lot of tools so far and we're going to move on to marketing. But again, remember, I'm just giving you the, no pun intended, high level of how all of these tools work. And not every tool is relevant to your situation. You definitely don't need to start with everything. So pick the tools that make sense for what's the most important to you and how you like to run your business, and then start with those. Next, we have marketing, and there's a whole bunch of stuff we can do in here. So first, it's a fully featured social planner. So you can go in here and you can add your accounts. You can click and connect all of your accounts, including Google My Business, and then you can actually make social media posts right here. So you can just go, say you want to make a Pinterest post, and then you want to add, say, you know what, I also want to post to my LinkedIn. You can do that. You can write your post here. You can get help from it with AI to write your post, attach images, everything. Then you can post it, or you can schedule your post for later. And then once you do that, you can go to your calendar view. You can see all your posts once you've scheduled them out. Again, if you like to use a scheduling tool, then this is going to be a real big time saver for you. And what's awesome is if you go over to content here, you can actually even have recurring posts that you can set to go out for you. So some automation there. You can even have a template library. So if you use the same kinds of posts, this can help you really save time creating posts. Next, HighLevel is also a fully fledged email marketing tool. So you can do broadcast or blast emails where you just go here and you can do a blank email, or you can choose from an email template, and it's really intuitive. Basically, you can preview the template if you want. It's going to add the template in a few seconds, and then you click into it, and it's really self-explanatory. You just go in here, you just type whatever you want. If you want to add some other elements to this, you can just drag in whatever you want. If you want that, or you want an additional image, and then when you're ready, you can send or schedule it to send for later. So very similar to a lot of different email platforms you might have used. Now, the second kind of email you can send is a workflow email, and those are those nurture emails or sequence emails where you can send multiple emails once someone triggers a certain activity. Say they downloaded a guide, or say they purchased a certain product, or they didn't purchase a product, or whatever it is, say they abandoned cart. Then you can actually send a sequence of emails, and I'll show you that in the workflow section when we get there. Snippets are really handy. They're basically little text snippets that you can use across your chats. So this time I'll show you on the app. And so if you just go to plus and you go to snippets, if you're chatting, you can just insert that snippet right there. So especially if you're on your mobile device and you have these big responses you typically write back, then you can save those as snippets to save time. Countdown timers are what they sound like. Effectively, you can create these timers. Say you want it to count down to a certain date, and you can insert those into emails, landing pages, and they're really good for time pressure, like, oh, offer expires in 24 hours or whatever it is. You just create that countdown timer, and then whatever you're making, there'll always be an option to add a countdown timer, and you would just add it from here. Trigger links are another little bit more of an advanced marketing function. Basically, you can create a special link when they're clicked in text or email. Then you can use use that trigger to set off something else. So for example, if someone clicks the link in a text you sent, then you can set a workflow to do something when someone clicks that link or whatever you want, or you can track it. So it's a little bit more advanced, but basically that's where you create trigger links. Here, if you run an affiliate program and you want affiliates to sell your product, you can manage all of that affiliate stuff in here. We already covered the brand board section, how to create your brand. Ads Manager is an add-on and it helps you with managing your ads if you want to do that. Again, you probably don't need this right now as a beginner. And Content AI just gives you some stats about all of the content that you might be generating using the AI, and it gives you a dashboard there. Next up, we have automation, and this is obviously something that you can get super advanced with. So I'm going to keep it really simple by explaining the fundamentals and explaining what it does, and so you can play around with it and understand. And so what these workflows are these automations that you can trigger when another action happens within the system. So for example, you can go to create workflow and select a recipe, and they'll give you examples here, like lets you use a recipe to automate the DM replies to comments on Instagram. So when people comment on Instagram, you can respond to them. Or you could do like an email drip sequence as you see here. So if you have a specific workflow that you're looking for and there's already a recipe, you can kind of just choose that right here. But I'm going to start from scratch just to keep this simple. Let's go to create workflow, go start from scratch. And once you get the logic, it's actually really simple. So the first thing that needs to happen is a trigger. So all workflows need a trigger to activate. That's what trips off the workflow. So you can see it can be like part of the contact's record, like their birth date, or something changed about them, or they got a tag added to them. Remember I was talking about tags? That's where this is so important, because you can add a tag for anything. So that becomes really powerful when building workflows. You know, maybe if they've had a task added for them or task, so many different things you can choose on the contact level. Maybe if an event happens, like they clicked on the trigger link I told you about, or maybe something from a call, or a very classic common one is like they've submitted a very specific form. So let's go with that one, right? Like let's say they submitted this form and that's it right there. And you can actually add a filter and you can say which specific form they filled, or you can say any form, specifically filled that in. Then if you want, you could even add like a tag that says, oh, they started this workflow or they filled this form if you want. But let's just keep it simple, right? You can actually just then say, hey, send them an email. Let's say this is a form for a guide. Let's say they downloaded the guide. Well, then you obviously want to send them the email. And let's say this was your template. You can actually create an email template if you want. You can edit it here. But basically you would then just save this email. I'm just going through it quickly, and you would just send them this email, and then you could add a delay. Let's say you wanted to then not, or you can do an if then statement, but say wait, right? You want to wait 1 day because you don't want to spam them. And then you could even clone this email, and then you can just hit copy here, and you get the idea. It's like building with Lego. It's really intuitive, and you can get super advanced with workflows, obviously, but I just want to show you that. And this is also how you do those email sequences I told you about. So really the possibilities are endless. Like you can modify your pipelines, you can send SMSs, WhatsApps, you can trigger emails to go out. You can do so many different things with workflows. I'm just scratching the surface, but at least you now know what they are, and I encourage you to start playing around and take a look at some of the recipes, because this is what's going to help you really automate a lot of things. You can even automate some of your operations, like if you have people on your team, let's say a new lead comes in, then you want to make that lead notification workflow to go to some of your team members to pick up that lead quickly, or you know, you can even have it text them. So many different things, right? So it's not just sales and marketing. Operations really benefit from this as well. For example, let's say someone in your pipeline, you mark someone closed won, and then let's say you have someone on your team that needs to do an onboarding session for them, then immediately you can trigger a workflow that triggers and adds a task to them to start the onboarding call or whatever it is, right? So the possibilities are endless. I don't want to make this confusing, but hopefully you're getting the idea of how strategically important workflows are. Next up is sites, and there's a lot of items in this section as well. The first is funnels. And so if you're not familiar, what a funnel is it's sort of like a sequence of pages that you take someone through, that you funnel them through. So I'll give you an example here. If you go to add funnel, then you can do it from scratch. You can use the AI or you can use a template. Let's just use a template. And so you can preview a whole bunch here. I'll just preview this one. And so you can see this is the first page in the funnel, and this is one for booking an appointment. But again, there's a lot of different examples here. Let's just go with this booking one and hit continue, and I'll explain exactly how it works. So this term funnels was popularized by ClickFunnels, so much so that within HighLevel itself, you actually have the option. If you go here, you can actually import ClickFunnels funnels, but I'll leave it at that for now. So basically you can see here that these are the steps in the funnel. So explaining it, you can see that this page has a book appointment button. And when you click that, we haven't configured the form yet. It's going to pull up a form. And then once you fill in that form, it says thank you. Very simple funnel, but of course you can have super advanced funnels. And basically what you do is you just import this funnel. You can start from scratch if you wanted to, and changing everything is like anything else in HighLevel. You just click and change. It's super easy. If you go to add elements, you can drag anything in. Everything in HighLevel works like this. It's so easy to modify things, so you don't even need to worry about it. But the most important thing is here, and that is to configure the next action. By default, HighLevel is smart and it'll know that this button will link to the next step. So once you hit publish, let's say you're happy with your changes. I won't do it because for now, then we'd want to configure the next page, right? And so likewise, we'd go in here and we'd configure the next page. We have to actually choose a form. We haven't picked a form, so it's a strategy call form, for example. And then what we want to do is upon submission, we go to the next page, right? So this was just a simple 3-page funnel, but of course you can add more steps to your funnel and you can make it as complex as you want. And then you can actually get a lot of stats on how people are progressing through the funnel. And this is really important because you get to see where it's breaking down. So say, for example, step 3 is where the conversions are falling off. Then that's how you know, that's the step I really got to optimize. And let me see what I can do on that step. That's why this funnel architecture really is the evolution of what we used to call landing pages, right? Because a landing page is just an independent page. But in truth, a landing page is never an independent page because there's always a thank you page. And then there might be something in between the thank you page, right? And so Russell Brunson popularized this idea of putting all those elements together in a bundle and calling them a funnel. And the idea of looking at it holistically like this. So that's where that functionality comes from. And that's what you can do. And you can see there's a bunch of funnels here. Next up is websites. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You just go to Plus website. You can start from scratch or choose a template. And you can, of course, again, preview it. And you just hit preview. And you see, let's say you wanted this website. You just hit continue. It's going to add the template. And so HighLevel lets you build entire websites. Again, replacing another tool that you would need. And so it's exactly like anything else in HighLevel. You can just add elements. You can drag in anything you want. If you want to modify something, it's super easy. You go to pages here. You can see all of the pages and you can modify them, each of those pages as you go. And then under pages here, you can also see it in this view. So you know exactly how many pages. You can add a new page if you want. And it really is that easy. You make a website. So stores are basically the same thing as websites, except they're e-commerce stores. So you actually have e-commerce functionality. And so you can see here, so we're going to continue and it would add that template. And again, choose a template that's relevant to you. And these stores actually work with the products section and the collections I talked about earlier. So you will have to set those up in conjunction with the store. But again, this might not be relevant to you if you do not sell physical goods. And then you can manage your product and you can do that, but everything else works just like the regular website builder. The only difference is there is that product layer, which then takes you back to that product section to kind of configure that in your collections and everything. So that takes you back there. But I hope you see how all of these pieces are interlinked and how if you understand them, then you know where to go to do what you need to do. So that's basically stores, and they work the same as websites, plus the e-commerce functionality when relevant. And there's a whole bunch of things in there in terms of configuring shipping and all of those other things that go, and inventory, like I showed you, that tie into physical products. Next are webinars, and there's two kinds of webinars you can run. You can run an on-demand or a live webinar. I'll show you a live webinar. And HighLevel actually doesn't have webinar software built in, so you can name it example, and let's say it's tomorrow. Next, say it's a form, it's this form. Next, And so you just need your webinar live links. So whether you're using Zoom, Google, whatever you want, there's no complex integration needed. You just basically put the webinar link in there, and when they fill in the form, they're going to get it, www.google.com. Like, I'm just pretending this is my webinar link. And then you can just choose like a template. There's just a few templates to choose from, but it gets the job done. You could start with a blank one if you want. And then boom, it went off and made a webinar for you. And you can see that's the registration form. And again, just like you can edit every other web page in HighLevel. And in the on-demand example, instead of the live link, you actually just upload a video. So if you've already created a presentation, then you can just upload that video. And then upon submitting the form, they'll be shown the video. Analytics lets you see all your website stats and analytics. Blogs are another interesting feature, and it basically lets you create a blog. So if you go to plus blog, then you can create your own blog. You can see here, pretty self-explanatory. And then within your blog, you can actually create posts. So if you go and you name it and you put your post description, and once you do that, it looks like this. And then you can edit your blog and you can have multiple posts and you can keep blogging. And so that's another tool that HighLevel replaces for you. It's not the best blogging experience, but it is functional. But if you do want a more superior blogging experience, if you're really into blogging, then you could integrate WordPress as they show you here, and that's going to take it up a notch for you. But if you're just writing blogs and you want to just keep everything in one place, not pay for any other tools, because the WordPress part is an additional charge, then the blogging feature is serviceable, it works, it gets the job done. Next is the client portal, and I'm actually going to cover that in memberships because that's what that's all about. So I'm going to skip over that for now. Forms are exactly what they sound like. They're forms. And so you can choose a template and you can choose a form, and editing your forms, as you guessed with everything else in HighLevel, it's very easy. You just click into each of the items, you drag things as I'm about to show you. So you click, you can say you want to add a first name field, you can do that. Oh, we already had the first name field, last name field, email. And so you can click here and you can make some changes. And there you go, or you can start from scratch. Very self-explanatory. Probably the most important thing with your form is to go to options on submit and decide what happens, right? So maybe when this form is submitted, you want to show a message or you want to direct to a URL. If you're using the funnels function, it's going to be taken care of for you, but something to keep in mind. And so that's how you create your forms that you can then use in basically any of the other tools. Next up, we have surveys, and they allow you to gather insights about your audience. So if you go plus survey, start from scratch, or choose templates. HighLevel has templates for most things, which makes things really easy. You can preview it here. Let's just go with whatever this is about. Again, you can choose a survey that makes sense for you, your use case and industry and whatever information you're trying to gather. But you can see here, you can gather all this information and then you save it. So within here, again, you can add any field you want just by dragging it in. And then when you're ready, you can preview it. And then my birthday is, let's go here. And then let's say I pick this. And then I say blah, blah, blah. And then it pulled up a form. So again, you could have designed this survey however you wanted, but surveys are really great lead magnets, and you can see slide 2, right? So you design them in slides. And this is how you kind of create these experiences where you can have a quiz funnel, as they call it, or you can do this really to get leads, or you can do this to get insights about your audience. So a lot of different ways to configure this survey. And again, like I said, there are a lot of templates, so you can preview and pick one that makes sense and it kind of tells you what they're about, but really easy to configure and pretty self-explanatory. And you can see your submissions, you can see your stats here. Quizzes function very similar to surveys, except there is a right answer, unlike a survey. So basically, say you drag your questions in, and then within your question, you can then set what's the right answer. And so if this option 1 is the right answer, you could set a score of 1, say. You can configure this however you want. I'll just make this a 1-question quiz. And then if I preview it, if I say option 2, they tell me I failed. But let's say we go back here and I choose option 1. Yay, I passed. I got 100%, right? So there you can set as many questions as you want, and you can edit the template here. And this is kind of that results page you saw. You can add whatever you want. And then of course, all that data on anyone who took the quiz would be there. This is really great if you're building online courses and you want to be able to test their knowledge. You could also use this in a fun way as a lead magnet as well as a quiz funnel instead of a survey funnel. So There's a lot of things you can do with this quiz builder right here, but that's basically how it works. Pretty easy to work with. Next up, we have the chat section, and I showed you my chat live on my site right here, and I want to show you how this is all done. So if you go to new, you have a few different options. You can do WhatsApp chat, live chat, or you can do some semi-live chat options or fully offline options. So the SMS email chat option here, there's no live component. They kind of just leave their email or SMS and someone gets back to them. So that would be this option right here. So they fill in their information and they hit send, and then basically you have the choice of texting or emailing them back. So that's really good if you don't want to man the live chat, but you still want a chat experience on your site to get conversions. Then the all-in-one chat is the one I'm running on my site, where you can see both of these options, and it lets you chat live and send messages. So I'll show you how I set that up. So if you just go to all-in-one chat, and then you can choose your channels here. You can adjust the style here. You can adjust what they say, and it'll reflect right there. So if I change this, you can see that how it looks right here. And then in the chat window, you can change the title, and you can do a little bit of configurations here, but honestly, it's really just done for you out of the box. There's not much else you have to configure here. You can just change up a few personalization options, but there's really nothing you need to do. One handy feature is the live chat assigned, where you can enable a contact form if you want, but if you're doing this, you can't use the AI conversation agent. So I'm going to keep it off, and I already have a chat agent built here. So I'm just going to delete this one. And so you see that right here, and calling it back to what I showed you earlier in the tutorial, in this conversation bot, you see the option to go live chat, and the minute you check this, it'll automatically assign to the chat that you made. Next up, we have QR codes, and there's another great feature HighLevel gives you that's just included. Basically, you can create these QR codes where people can just take out their camera, scan them. I'm sure you've used them before, and you have so many different cool options. Like, you can obviously send it to a website, and so if you did a website example, that would be the obvious one, and if they scan your QR code, they go to your website. But you can actually do a lot more cooler things. Like if you do this call one, if you create a QR code here, when you scan it, then your phone number shows up in their phone immediately. So if you had that on a flyer, or if you had that on your business card or anything, your phone number shows up on their screen. Next, this is a really cool one too, and this one, basically you can pre-populate an email from them to you. It's kind of tricky to think about. Basically, if you put your phone number and a message in here, when they scan this, it'll open up the texting app on their phone, add your number, and send the message you pre-configured. So there's a great way for you to be able to follow up with them. You can just say like, hey, let's say you're talking to someone, it's like, hey, listen, send me a text and I'll follow up with you. Yeah, okay, here, scan, and the text will go right in there, and then you can follow up with them. So pretty cool. So a lot of options here with QR codes. You see a whole bunch here, and so you can play with those, and they're really good for in-person stuff. But I'll give you a little bit of a ninja hack. You can also use this on Instagram, because Instagram doesn't have links. So what you do is you download this PNG right here, and then you can include that in the corner of your Instagram post, so people can whip out their phone and scan it, and then instantly they can be taken to your website or get text or whatever it is that you want to do. So that's really another clever trick. You can use these QR codes for places that don't have links. Next up, we have memberships, and this is where you can host your courses and communities. So first up is your client portal, and basically here, of course, you can brand it and set it up however you'd like. And this is where your customers will be able to log in to see the online courses they're part of and to see what communities they're part of. So once they log in, they'll be taken into your community or course area, and I'll show you how both of those work together. So to create our first course, just go to products, go to create product, and you can start from scratch, and you have a sprint course, a marathon course, a membership, or build your own. Let's just go to a marathon course. You can name it what you want. And again, much like everything else we covered in HighLevel, it's really simple and intuitive how to add content to your course. You can just click here and start editing. the sections and modules. Just click in here and change it. And when you're done, you can save, you can attach things, you can add a thumbnail here, or you can attach some video to this post. And so these are almost like modules. And so within each section, there are modules. And so it's very similar to how most online courses are structured. And there's different permissions for how you can make these modules appear and whatnot. But once you've completed the course, then you can actually set up a certificate. And so the person can get that upon completion. You can configure that as well, which is a nice touch. And then if you want to sell your courses, you go to offers, you go create offer, and then you can charge whatever you want, whether it's recurring or fixed, and you can charge whatever you want for that course. And then you associate it with your course, and then you hit save. Say this course is, I don't know, $500, and you go create, and then right then and there is how they can check out and buy that course. And I'll show you that in a moment. And of course, you have all kinds of analytics you can also get regarding your courses. Now, the next part is communities. And so you can actually create a group to manage your community. Just go to create group and you can name it, and you can set your branding and your cover image and create that. And this is what that group would look like. And once they log in, you'll see that it's like a blend between Facebook groups, school, and Slack. So the Slack part is you can have these channels where people can have different conversations. You can make more channels if you want. And then the school part is you can see the Sprint course right here. They can join it and they can start taking all their courses, very similar to school. And you can choose another course that we just created to add here. And then of course you have your discussions here, and there's a lot of gamification features like leaderboards and stuff, and there's events that you can add that you can keep your community more engaged in case you want to do like a speakers coming in, or your webinars happen every Wednesday in your community. So this is kind of an all-in-one community system, right? And that's what encompasses the entire client portal. So it's a very powerful tool. And what's even more awesome is you can actually get your own branded app. Now there are a bunch of steps you need to go through. It's not too bad. You got to do this whole DUNS number and everything. So if you're really serious about your community and it's really growing, it's definitely worth the time to do it, because then people can engage in your community with their app. So they can download that on the iOS or Android stores. And then that's just a way for them to just be more engaged because they don't have to be on a computer. So that is an option, and you can get that as well. But the whole client portal package here is a really powerful tool to not only engage your audience, but you can create a recurring income system with this. The last thing I'll show you is, again, very similar to school, because HighLevel is really trying to go head to head with school, is they're kind of creating this marketplace. Because one of the big things about school is it's not only just a place to manage your courses and run your communities, it also is a place that has a discovery component. And so you can see a lot of creators are already creating courses in GoKollab, and so that is their competitor for that component of school. So once you create your community, then you can actually add that to GoKollab so that you can get discovered and get more members through that way. Okay, we're almost at the finish line here. So media storage, this one is super straightforward. It literally is what you think it is. You can upload your images, videos, audio, any files, anything you need. Just go to upload and you can add whatever you need. And then of course you can use those files all over the tool wherever it's relevant, as an attachment, as a video, as a audio file in your courses, anything you want. And so you see I have so much storage left, and it really is just Google Drive. And you can even just use the AI feature here to make images if you want, which is a nifty little trick. Next up, we have reputation management, if that's relevant to you, and this would be your dashboard. And so what's awesome is you can actually send review requests. So ask them to write a review, and wherever you want your review to be written, you can choose who you want to ask, and then you can email that out, or you could do SMS if you activate it, and you can just send that out. And of course, that's a great way to farm reviews from your existing contact database. And again, you can even build an automation out of this that sends it out immediately after someone purchases a product. And this is where I'm talking about, where when you understand how all these features fit together, how it all starts to make sense. And so a lot you can do here, and you can of course do it manually as well. Then here is where you can actually review all of your reviews, and you can see there's Google pages and Facebook pages. Really, that's where you're going to be collecting these reviews. Then if you do get reviews, then you're going to see all your reviews aggregated into a widget that you can embed on your website, say, which is awesome. That just shows how many reviews you've gotten. And this is actually a paid feature that can help you with your review management. It's a service to help you get more authority and reviews. And again, it's optional. And then we have reporting, which is exactly what it sounds like. You can make these pretty awesome reports if you do have a team and you want some reports sent out in a particular period, or if you want to make these for your clients. So you can actually just drop these widgets in and it'll pull specifically from all of the live data, and you can send or schedule those reports to go out on basically any frequency you want, which is pretty cool. And we also have the app marketplace. I covered this on the agency side and it's the exact same here. Basically, you can integrate with hundreds of apps, and you can even use these apps in workflows in some circumstances. So it's relevant if it's relevant to you. If you have other things you use, you can integrate them into HighLevel. But again, as a beginner, this might not be relevant to you immediately. So I just covered every single tool there is in HighLevel and gave you everything you need to know about how the system works and how each of these tools work with each other. Some of the tools I went over really quickly, and that's because there is an insane amount of depth in each tool. And the only way you're really going to become a master of each tool is by using it. If I were to make a huge tutorial, it would be literally 5 or 6 hours minimum, and I don't think that's what you need right now as a beginner. So my advice is, now that you understand what each of the tools do and how things work together, decide what makes sense to implement first. And don't worry if you're only using 10 or 20% of the features. If you're getting value, that's all that matters. And if you're slowly growing and learning, because everyone starts this way in HighLevel, it's impossible to just be a master of HighLevel in a week. It has so much functionality that even to this day, I'm still constantly learning new things. And the other thing I recommend is support is your friend. Their support desk is world class. Like, they literally hop on a Zoom call with you and answer any question you want. You can share your screen and they'll tell you how to do specific things if you have questions. So what I recommend is you pick a few tools, you start learning them. If you have questions, reach out to support. They're going to give you amazing hands-on support. And if you're feeling a little overwhelmed while using HighLevel, don't worry, it's part of the process. This is a very complex tool, I'll be honest with you, in the sense that you can do a lot of super advanced things, but it doesn't have to be complex if you're just starting with the basics. This tutorial took a lot of time for me to put together and to try and make it as simple as possible for you. So I would appreciate if you got something out of this, that you hit that like button. And if you want more tools to simplify your business, consider subscribing to the channel for more great content just like this. Now, if you want another awesome HighLevel video, check out this right here.